Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my AM reading video for Rosh Hashanah 5784. It's taken me a lot longer than I thought to get to my first AM reading video of September. This month has been quite unusual for me, starting with not getting my literary newsletter out until midway through the month. That would be my August literary newsletter. But it is finally out. One of the major reasons it took forever is it did take me longer than I hoped to get through this 800-page chunkster, A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, although I absolutely adored it. It's like, one of those crazy feelings of just being in love with something that's so long. But anyway, yeah, it's one of my most anticipated, if not my most anticipated release of the year, and this just sprawling epic fantasy sequel that really lived up for me. Anyway, I have snippets of the review for this book and the other books I read, or started in this case, in August on my literary newsletter, also literary news that caught my fancy, and book pick and book video from BookTube, all sorts of things in my newsletter that I will link down below. And now we get into, slowly but surely, September reading. I start these reading videos by reading a short story. For the past few months I've been eking through this collection, Oy Caramba, an anthology of Jewish stories from Latin America, edited by Alon Stavins. I in fact have one final short story left in this anthology to talk about, but I decided not to start with this this month. I'm going to get to and wrap up this whole collection later in the month. But since Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, I thought I'd start with a new project on a new foot, something I've been looking forward to for a long time. I've started collecting quarterly journals of the month from a subscription that sends me literary journals every quarter. And for a while I've had the Iowa Review, the summer 2022 edition, and I've been wanting to read one short story from this, starting with this edition, and that's what I'm going to do now. I've read Simple Animal by Pallavi Wakharkar, and this is a story about relationships during COVID. There's a definite sort of distance and isolation even when talking about relationships. We're following a South Asian woman who is working from home and is living very far from what's left of her family, which is her father, who is suffering from dementia. So it's all sorts of messaging about distance and loss. And she starts seeing, first on Zoom, this white guy, and then their relationship morphs to something in person, and it is sort of juxtaposed or against what's happening with her father, and a lot of, this is a very internal sort of story where she's talking about what it is to be living in her city, and the sparse, often racially tinged relation she has with people around her, and sort of the daydreaming she does about sort of society, like she's dating this guy Leo, who had another South Asian Indian girlfriend, and she's like going into daydreams about what this person might have been like and the types of cultural realities for Indian Americans. So I don't know, I feel like this actually won an award for the Iowa Review, so I'll link to more information on that below. It's definitely a story that would speak more to literary fiction writers because it's more ruminative and inside her head, and like, I think the biggest action in a way is in the end when her father takes a turn for the worse, and it's a question of what really is her relationship to Leo. Have they gotten to the point in their relationship where he'd actually be there for her, or is this goodbye? The writing is beautiful though, and I mean there's some really beautiful contemplative phrases. Maybe something tighter would be more appealing perhaps, but it definitely is beautiful writing. And as for other reading, I am currently in the middle of Standing Again at Sinai, Judaism from a Feminist Perspective by Judith Plaskow, which I very intentionally picked up to read starting right before Rosh Hashanah. I was kind of hoping I could barrel through it and finish it at the end of this weekend when Rosh Hashanah ended, but I am still in the days of awe, so I guess it's, still thematically appropriate, and hopefully I will be finishing this soon. It's a really engaging read, although I guess I've been thinking a lot about the modern era of distraction, and that it's more difficult to get into sort of this deep level of philosophical musing. And all of the complex ideas that Plaskow is parsing, which is probably part of the reason I'm taking a little longer with this. But yeah, this is her treatise in how to make Judaism a little more open. She's specifically focusing on open to female members of the tribe. This is definitely something that she put together and published in the late 80s and early 90s, so it's interesting to see what things still apply today and what don't. Not so much, I guess, in terms of female involvement. Because she's talking, I guess, on a more philosophical level. So even though women continue to be more and more involved in progressive Judaism, she's on another level than that. But the way she talks about other sorts of intersectionality, and she's also bringing in her involvement in the feminist movement, and just the sorts of questions she's asking herself about making room at the table and what needs to change in Jewish life and understanding. It's like a complexity, and she's not one of those, she's not a radical feminist who's like, let's, tear everything down. She really wants to make sure that in making room at the table, Judaism still remains something that, feels Jewish, that has some of the cultural and theocratic traditional touchstones as well. So that takes a lot more work and time. This is a marathon process, and so these chapters talk about, like we talked a lot about Jewish holy texts. We talked about the people Israel, which means the Jewish community, and how the community is understood with masculine words and phrasing. One of the things we get into is, the Torah versus all of the commentaries written by male rabbis after the Torah and that sort of thing. And now I'm into understandings of God and the weird dichotomy of people who insist that God is not masculine but get very defensive when we try to get away from masculinity, and not only gendered words about God, but how God is understood in domineering terms, and maybe ways to move past that a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot going on in here. It might take me as long to write a review for this, I wonder, as it is to read it. Yeah, I will hopefully report back with the even more enlightened thing to say, I hope, about this. And finally, we are wrapping up the 2023 BookTube Prize finals for the year, and I listened to Trespasses by Louise Kennedy recently. It is a book that takes place in the 70s in Ireland during the Troubles. The main character is dealing with a lot of upheaval in her life, both, politically all around her and personally, especially as a Catholic 20-something woman, she gets involved in a relationship with a Protestant married man. So lots of drama abounding there. But that is all I will talk to you about that book currently, because, as I said, I'm reading it for the BookTube Prize as an official judge. The BookTube Prize was started by Robert at Barter Hordes. The intention is to judge the best in literary fiction and nonfiction published in the U.S. the year before. We start with 2 long lists of 48 books apiece and whittle them down throughout several months. And now we are at our final ballot of 6 books apiece. And in October, Robert will be gathering together all of the rankings of all of the judges, which we do privately, and we'll be announcing the winners and runners-up in each division. So stay tuned for that. I know I'm very excited. It's coming up in just a few weeks. But if you would like to hear my preliminary thoughts about my ballot before I started reading those books, I can link to a video down below, as well as to more information about the BookTube prize. And that about covers it for me now. Getting back into things kind of short and sweet. Of course, I have a whole lot more reading I'm kind of hoping to squeeze into what's left of the month. We'll see how it does. And at the very least, I'm hoping to squeeze in a few more videos, more than one a week or so, going forward in September. And on that note, I hope to be back in a few days to talk about my mock reads list, which is my attempt to riffing off of the Goodreads Choice Awards, which are also coming up, I guess, starting next month. And I'm trying to read some front list, which may or may not make it onto the Goodreads Choice Awards, but they are books that catch my fancy. And my final video I want to make for that is about some recent YA science fiction and fantasy releases, so stay tuned for that. So we are in the Days of Awe on the Jewish calendar, where we welcomed in the prospect of a new year and just new beginnings and change, and now we have to work on confronting our past mistakes and specifically reaching out to people we've wronged and asking for forgiveness before the big Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, on Monday. I also have a wedding engagement dinner to go to over the weekend, so that's fun. So this random change of pace there, but yeah, still got some fun things going on the calendar, but I'm really hoping also to get back into the groove here, because I've missed it and I felt off all month not making the videos and maybe being a little slower than I'd like with reading, but I guess we will do what we can do. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. And in the meantime, I hope you are enjoying your Septembers as well. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.